Hi, today I'm going to talk about free energy. I do apologize if the video quality is not that good. I am inside. Usually I would hook up my big camcorder, but honestly I really don't want to drag everything out. I've got a lot of junk on the floor, as you can see, and I have been working on this. This is my girlfriend's bike. We ordered one of these small 350 watt 12 24 volt DC motors, permanent magnet generator. Now after we got this, I hooked it up to my drill, and it barely produced 7.62 volts. Now that's not a lot of power, so if you plan on hooking one of these up for like free energy to run some things, you can forget it. This will not produce that kind of power, but it will, even at the small voltage that it kicks out, basically it will put out the voltage of my battery charger, which is, well, that's 12 volt, but it will kick out the amps. So what I'm going to demonstrate today is there's a reason most people hook these up to your bike wheels with a pulley system. It will make it spin faster, it will give you a lot more power, but if you're in a very small apartment, and yes, I have junk everywhere. I just moved some stuff over there so I could open that window, and I still have a chair there from me getting up there. We have a piece of plastic that hangs down. Every light, I mean every single light is on in this house, well, apartment, to try to get enough brightness in here for me to show you. Now, we did buy a bike trainer. It was like $80. The motor itself I found for 38 plus, it was like 15, 16 shipping, something like that, 18 shipping. It was over 50 with the shipping. Now, if you're going to get one of these, I want you to understand something. These will not produce the power you're looking for if you want to actually run something, okay? Now, I have a little 12 volt light down here hooked up. I took it out of my van, and I'm going to show you how I hooked this up. Now, this isn't the best way to hook this up, but in a situation like ours where we have 12 feet from one wall over here to the other wall over here, we do not have a lot of room in this studio at all. I mean, none. So we could not afford an extra 2 to 3 feet for, the wheel, and then a pulley system coming back, and then something hooked the motor up to. We just couldn't afford the space. Now, unfortunately, when you get one of these motors, they do come with little gears. These gears are way too small for a chain. So I'm going to tell you how you can hook this up. Now, you're going to need a couple things. Some drywall screws, some washers, and of course I have a 2x3, not a 2x4, a 2x3. The motor is extremely small. Now, these gears come off exact opposite of how you would take a regular bolt, a nut and bolt apart. So if you want to loosen this, you have to turn it to the right. When you tighten it, you have to turn it to the left. Now, they come with a shaft that has I believe that's a plastic piece, I'm not sure, and it has a lock washer right behind the nut head. Now, this here is the gear that came off. It is absolutely tiny. I mean, small. Here, let's see, let me see if I can find something. Let's see, 1/2 inch socket next to it. As you can see, it's not much bigger than a 1/2 inch. Let's see, right there, 9/16 socket. So you can tell, I mean, I hope you can see this. It is not that much bigger. These teeth are way too close together if you're going to hook this up to a bike. So I'm going to tell you how I did this. This isn't necessarily the best way, and I still have to put a couple screws in the front or something in the front. but for now it works. It's, you know, this is basically what I plan on doing. I did tear the bike trainer apart. I took all the stuff off. This is the bracket, the long bracket. You will use that facing upward. Okay, this is the little bracket. This you will not use at all. You can take that out if you want. You know, right now I'm just leaving it in. But like I say, this bracket here, this came off of it. I took everything off this bike trainer. Literally everything. Here are the screws that came out. These are like Allen wrench screws, hex screws, whatever. Allen wrench. And I do have a little kit here, costing me like $7-8, that has pretty much all the sizes I need. So I'm taking everything off. I took everything off, 100% everything. And I screwed a 2x3 onto this bracket through the bottom. I do have a couple washers on there. You can see on the side, right here, I did mark basically where the end of this is going to go. The middle bracket, it goes under the bottom. I set the motor on top. Now these motors, it is best to turn them clockwise, not counterclockwise. They do not work. They can work counterclockwise, but it's best to do them clockwise. Now, if you're going to hook this up to a battery, oh damn it, I can't remember the name of that. I'll try to remember the name of it. You need to get a little. Oh, damn, I will have to remember that, and I'll have to get back to you on that. But anyway, it's a little thing that keeps the power going one way and not the other. I just can't remember the name right now. I'm hot, I'm sweaty. Midnight's over there on my bed. He hasn't left my bed since, well, last night. He does sleep with me, and I haven't even been able to make my bed. So, anyway, we'll get back to that later. Now, for me to use this gear, this is actually a gear off the bicycle. They are made different. So, I'm going to tell you how I did this. Here's the other gear from the chain, the bike chain. Here's where I took it off. And this is not going to be adjustable at all. So the only way you can adjust it is maybe unscrew the screws on the bottom and move the board over if you want to adjust it. I have it on the second slot, and that goes around here. What I did was I took this little sprocket, the other one right here. I slid it on there. Now these sprockets are made differently. The bike sprocket is one complete circle. This little sprocket here has a flat bottom. I don't know if you can see that. Hopefully you can. So the trick is getting this sprocket to turn without letting it slip. It has to grip the shaft. To do that, what I did was I took the lock washer that came out right up from underneath this nut that came on this motor. Let me see if I can, right there, the nut. And I put it all the way to the end. Then I put the little shaft that came in back in, and that way it lifts it out. And then I slid this on, and then I tightened the nut as tight as I could get. That way when this moves, it'll move the shaft. If you're going to do this, I advise you make it more permanent. I'd advise you take some kind of saw, put a couple, slash something, fill it in some way, drill a little notch out of that shaft, put something in there, to make sure it's permanent. This is just me checking this. This is a temporary thing. I will be rewiring this. I will be putting a solar controller on this, or a wind controller, a charger controller. But unfortunately, I did find out if you hook this up to the battery, it will spin on its own. So you have to hook that little piece up. And for the life of me, I can't remember the name of it. I will have to look that up for you. But anyway, here's what it does. I have to keep these wires apart because, well, I don't want them to touch. There we go. Now I'm just doing that with my hand. So you can actually get a lot more speed up if you're riding the bike. I'm going to try to get everything in here so you can see how I have this hooked up. And like I said, the hard part is getting some type of wheel or pulley or gear to fit this motor. But like I said, the one that came with it is way too small. Now you saw the light lighting up. That was just me pedaling by hand. Once I hook up a charger controller to this, we have a little battery over there that I will probably hook it up to, or we may just buy a new battery because that battery's kind of bad too. But if you need emergency power, or you need an emergency way to charge up your batteries, yes, this will work, but it will take forever, literally forever, doing it the way I have it. Like I said, a lot of people have the wheels left on, and what I did was I took the sprocket completely off the wheel. It took me, hours to get those spokes out. It was a royal pain. I finally ended up just starting to cut them out with my big heavy duty wire cutters, and as you can see, it's pretty straight. But if you leave your wheel on, you have to take your tire and your tube off, but leave your wheel on, and eventually you'll take it off because you have to put a belt on there. Then you have to build all this stuff way out here. I've seen numerous things on YouTube where they're talking about a bike generator, and they have the motor way back here. They have an alternator on it. In some cases, if you can get your hands on a low RPM high output alternator, that would do so much better than this little motor I have. But those are extremely expensive. And if you're looking for free energy, you don't want to have to spend a lot of extra money. This is the only way I personally have been able to figure this out without spending another $50 to $100 on extra stuff. Belts, stuff to build a stand with, all this other junk. An alternator. This is a nice, cheap, easy way. I believe the 2x3 is, probably 9-10 inches long. I did not measure this. I actually had this piece of 2x3 cut down. If you want, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and pause this. I'll grab a tape measure and I'll slap it on there and I'll measure it for you. And I will be right back. Okay, I am back. Blocking diode is the name of the thing I was trying to remember, and it just came to me. So if you want free energy and you don't want your motor to run when you hook it up to a battery, you have to have a blocking diode, or in some cases a charger controller will prevent that. So there's nothing free about free energy. Now this is, like I said, this is a 2x3, and it is pretty much 10 inches. Like I said, it was an extra board I had. It was just laying around. So the longest, you can see the other side is cut a little longer than this side. Over here is cut a little bit longer. So it's roughly 10 inches, 9 3/4. I'd say 10 inches, be on the safe side. I do not have screws in the front yet. In fact, I really don't think I'll need screws on the front. Once again, this is the small flat piece on the trainer. You don't use it at all. You don't use this handle at all. You just use this long piece that's curved. Hook your 2x2, screw it from the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. I actually have some washers like this that I used. You can actually use regular washers. Screw it from the bottom. Once you get it stable, figure out where your motor's going to have to go, and then just screw it in. Your chain can still be a little bit loose. Remember, these motors perform much better if they are spinning, I know they're reversible, but they perform better and they actually pretty much last longer if they're spinning clockwise. Remember, clockwise. Now, as you can tell, like I said, I have a lot of junk here. This motor we just got in the mail, and amazingly enough, this was United States Postal Service, and they actually brought it to the door, thank God. I mean, as you can tell from some of my other videos, UPS, FedEx, and some other delivery companies have been leaving stuff outside, even though I put signs up that said don't leave stuff at this door. The post office is usually pretty good about bringing stuff to the back where we live. I really appreciate that. I give them credit for that. Now, what I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to take all this stuff off. This is just hanging for now. Like I said, I did use the wheel. There's the other part right there. And it was a pain to get that out. I mean, literally. These things have little bitty right there. Little bitty bolts. I mean, they suck. There's really not much head to grip on when you're trying to take one off. But I actually got it off. Which, oh man, it took me forever. But, like I said, if you want free energy, and you don't have room, literally room, once you get your motor figured out where you want it, and this is the easiest way I found. It does pull the chain tight enough. It's still a little bit loose. It doesn't drag. It doesn't sag. It doesn't hang. And I can still adjust this if I need to. So, if you want to have a bike generator, and like I said, you don't have room to leave your wheel on and have extra stuff behind it, because you still have to have the alternator, you still have to have a pulley, a belt hooked up. If you have room, I do advise that's the way you do it, because every time you spin that wheel, it spins this little motor like 50 times or whatever it is, so you can produce much more power than this way. This is only if you don't have room, and if you really want to hook something up like this. Like I said, we just don't have the room. We don't have the extra room. And this is about the only way I could figure this out, to where we could actually use this little motor, and we did pay some good money for it, and still be able to use it to produce some power. Now, eventually I'm going to hook up probably a blocking diode, and yes, that's the name of what you need to get. I will hook up a probably wind charger controller. I do have an extra solar charger controller. Unfortunately, I did, like I said, I hooked this up to my electric drill, and it barely produced 7.62, volts. Not nearly enough. So if my drill couldn't spin it that fast, there's no way I'm going to spin it that fast riding this bike. But hopefully this produces enough power, especially in the amperage department, that it will charge a battery up so we can use it. Like I said, the little light does work. You saw that. That was me spinning it by hand. So, it's just a little light that came out of my van. I have a short in the wiring in the ceiling, and I have to pull everything down, so I just disconnected all the lights. And I just put a dome light up. So I have all these little lights just laying around. Man, they work fine. But once again, if you want free power, there's no such thing as free anything. The motor costs money. If you have an alternator, the alternator costs money. So there's nothing free about it. Like I said, here is the sprocket that was on the wheel. I left the entire shaft. I made sure that all the bearings are in there. The bearings in this actually do need to be greased. I'm really not worried about it. Because like I say, it's not like my girlfriend actually rides this thing. We did buy it for her. She said she wanted to lose a little bit of weight and get a little exercise. And I did tell her, she's not going to use this unless I have it hooked up to her computer and she actually has to ride it to power her computer. Unfortunately, I was right. So, I figured, you know what? We have the bike. We ordered the trainer. We had the trainer, which is a lot of money. You can actually get away with making your own stand, which is no big deal. Um, you can actually use metal pipe, go up underneath here with metal pipe, and put a bracket around here, and then make a stand, an arrow stand, however you want. Once you get that pipe under there, just make sure it doesn't rub the chain, and you're good. Because these trainers are really expensive. I mean, $80 like for this thing, I couldn't believe it. But once again, to get a gear that works, I had to take it off the bike. Here's the other one. There are two gears, and this one actually has a bigger hole in it, it looks like. Actually, I don't think it does. I think it's just a center. I really don't want to touch this. It's really gross. All these things are nasty. Yeah. See, this center piece pops out. If I can get it out without getting crap all over me. This is just nasty. Because there's grease everywhere. There you go. That's what you need right there. And that's all you need. But unfortunately, once you take one of these off your bike, well, your chain's not going to work right, and you actually have to do something like this. I do apologize for the length. I do apologize for the quality. Like I said, I have every light on, plus I have the window open, and, I did not want to drag out my big camcorder. It's too big to handle, when I'm trying to film something like this. The front, I left all the stuff on the front. Now, this is not adjustable anymore. So, you need to get it set however you want it. I do have it set on the second sprocket. Eventually, I may set it for the first sprocket. I'm not sure. I can actually set it for the larger sprocket. It won't really matter to me what this is set on, because what matters is that little pulley right there, that little gear. So, this is how I have my bike generator hooked up. I just got done with it, and of course now I have grease all over my hands. And you can see how much room is left behind it. And it didn't take a lot of money, extra money, to hook this up. We didn't have to buy a belt. We didn't have to, buy anything extra. We had to buy the motor. I used parts off the bike. And we had to buy the trainer. So you can actually make your own bike trainer to hold your bike up with. It's no big deal. I'm using the gears from the bike itself, including on this motor. Alright, I apologize for the length of this video. But remember, if you want to use this on a battery, a blocking diode is most likely a must. You do not want that battery to backfeed. So, if you just want to use it for charging, definitely have a blocking diode. I did hook this up when I had my drill hooked up to it. I actually have an extra solar charger controller that I hooked up. But unfortunately, my solar charger controller doesn't work unless it's hooked up to a battery. So I hooked it up to the battery. And yes, it did not spin the motor. So, and the load function did work when this was spinning, but it did not produce nowhere near the power that it needs to be 12 volts, and that's what my drill's spinning at. So you can imagine how little power you're actually going to get with pedaling this thing. Anyway, this is our bike generator. Like I said, I just got done with it. I have a huge mess to clean up. It's pretty easy to do. So, and like I said, I will be pulling the cable off that goes to the other gear, the small gear system that was on this bike. And all this stuff up here can be taken off now because, well, I already took the brakes off, and all these cables just everywhere, they can be removed because we're not going to use them for anything. Or I could just leave them hanging, whatever. It's irrelevant to me. I'm pretty sure I'll remove them though. But anyway, I hope this gives you an idea. And yes, you can do basically the same thing with some type of car alternator. Unfortunately, a car alternator is much bigger than this little DC motor. So you're actually going to have to adjust some stuff to get a car alternator to work, or you're going to have to add a little bit of chain to this to bring the alternator back farther so it doesn't rub on this gear. I mean, right now I have three-quarters of an inch between the motor and the gear. And the motor is moved back a little bit, but if that motor came up, it would rub directly under that big gear that goes on this bike. So, anyway, I'll give you a good shot of it. Eventually I will take the front wheel off and put a stabilizer on the front, just a bar going down with some pipe going across the floor. That way we'll get rid of some of the length on the front. I possibly will redesign this, but I'm pretty sure what all I'll do is maybe flip the trainer around so all this little junk is in the front instead of in the back. Then again, I just may leave it. But that's how it looks. And you saw it power the little light, so you know it's working. And this is mine and my girlfriend's bike generator, and this is how I hooked it up. Once again, you need a blocking diode if you're going to have charging batteries, or some type of charger controller. Hopefully it has some type of blocking diode in it, and of course a battery. And like I said, this will not power a great deal. This little motor says 350 watts, 12 volt, and some people out there saying it's kicking out 38 amps. I do not see this kicking out 38 amps. I see this kicking out 7 amps. So, hey, it's something. It'll charge a battery, basically like your average car battery charger. But it is energy you can get in an emergency situation. You just have to really work at it. Alright. If you have any questions about how I hooked this up, once again, I used a sprocket from the bike to fit on the shaft. When I took the original sprocket off, there is a nut there with a lock washer behind it, and then a little piece of shaft that fits over it. I slid the lock washer all the way down, and then I put this shaft cover back. Then I put my sprocket on, and then I tightened the nut down on top of it to make sure it would turn. And that's how I did that. So, alright, I apologize, this is really long. This damn camera, it's a new camera, same kind I had before, and this one needs the batteries too, so I really apologize if the quality goes bliff. So, but there you go. There's an easy way without spending a lot of extra money. Basically, you need some drywall screws, a couple washers, and a piece of 2x3 to hook you up a motor, 12 volt motor on a bicycle. Alright, everyone have a good day.